I bet you didn't know love could be so powerful, so consuming, that it could start a zombie apocalypse. But that's exactly what happened to one dad and his little girl. Their story is one of love, desperation, and the unimaginable choices that come with it. In a world where the undead roam the streets, where chaos and fear have taken over, one father's love for his daughter became both his greatest strength and his ultimate downfall. It all began innocently enough, with a playful raccoon bite. Just a nip, nothing serious, right? Or so he thought. But soon his little girl was burning with fever, and then something worse. Her transformation was slow and agonizing, a week of watching his sweet child slip away into something unrecognizable. The playful raccoon bite that started it all seemed so trivial at the time, a small wound, easily dismissed. But it was the beginning of a nightmare that would consume their lives and the world around them. As the days passed, the bite mark festered, and her condition worsened. The fever was just the beginning. Her eyes lost their sparkle, her skin grew pale, and her once joyful laughter turned into guttural growls. The father watched in horror as his daughter transformed before his eyes. He tried everything to save her, doctors, medicines, but nothing worked. Her fever raged on, and with it the darkness grew. The father was left with a choice no parent should ever face, to kill his own daughter or find another way. He couldn't do it. He couldn't bring himself to end her life, even as she became something monstrous. 1 week later, she was no longer his sweet little girl. She was a zombie. Her eyes, once filled with love and innocence, were now vacant and hungry. Her small hands, which used to hold his so tightly, now reached out with a deadly intent. The father was faced with an impossible decision. She was a zombie, a creature of nightmares, driven by an insatiable hunger. But to him she was still his daughter. He couldn't let go of the hope that somewhere inside that monstrous shell his little girl still existed. He chose to protect her, to keep her alive, even if it meant feeding her, a choice no parent should ever face. To kill his own daughter or find another way. He couldn't do it. Instead, he fed her, the neighbours. The guilt was overwhelming, but his love for her was stronger. He lured unsuspecting neighbours to their doom, all to keep his daughter alive. Each life taken weighed heavily on his conscience, but he couldn't bear to lose her. His love had become a curse, unleashing an apocalypse upon the world. One by one they fell, victims of a father's desperate love. The neighbourhood fell. His actions set off a chain reaction, spreading the infection far and wide. The once peaceful community was now a battleground of the living and the dead. 1 year later, his love had unleashed an apocalypse. The infection spread like wildfire, turning friends and family into mindless monsters. The father watched in despair as the world he knew crumbled around him. But through it all he stayed by her side, protecting her, even if meant killing the innocent. His love was unwavering, even as she devoured humanity. He fought off attackers, both living and dead, to keep her safe. His love for her was a beacon in the darkness, guiding him through the horrors of the apocalypse. He believed that one day she might come back to him, that his love could save her. He couldn't give up on her. He watched in sorrow as she fed, each meal a reminder of the monster she had become. But he held on to hope, believing that one day she might change back. Years passed, and a miracle began. Slowly she started to change back. Her human mind was returning, emerging from the monstrous shell love had kept alive. Love had kept her alive. The father watched as his daughter began to show signs of her former self. Her eyes regained their sparkle, her skin warmed and her growls turned into words. The transformation was slow, but undeniable. The father dared to hope that his daughter was coming back to him. He stayed by her side, nurturing her, protecting her, and loving her through every step of her recovery. But now they faced a new horror, the world they had helped destroy. The father and daughter, once again united, looked out at the ruined cityscape, knowing that their actions had brought about this devastation. The world was a wasteland, filled with the remnants of humanity and the undead. The father and daughter, now reunited, had to navigate this new reality, seeking redemption for the chaos they had caused. Love can save us, but it can also be our undoing. What would you choose? When love creates a zombie apocalypse, the lines between right and wrong blur, and the choices we make can have far-reaching consequences.